This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, talking about the new regulations here for Congress and government wiretapping. Now, Apple and Google are failing to comply with government warrants and are adding extra levels of encryption to their phones. Now, this may make it impossible for them to do government-sanctioned warrants and be able to listen in on criminals' phone calls. What do you think about this, Marilyn?
Well, to be honest with you, I think it's very, very, very important that they do listen. But I think that they should give the privileges to those that have proven themselves to be fighting against criminals, to apprehend them and to punish them and see it through, and to free us of all of the evil. You know, because we have so many spies and there are so many dishonest people that are trying to get into our government and get a hold of all of our information, I think it's really important that only a few select people are allowed to actually, you know, use the techniques.
Now, should Congress force companies to allow government-sanctioned wiretapping, and will this do? Should Congress force companies to allow government-sanctioned wiretapping, and what will this do to companies' profits if foreign companies can make phones that governments cannot tap?
Oh my goodness, I wonder who would be behind that. Maybe all the big, you know, criminals. And that would be really, really awful. So, you know what? I don't know. I think our government just has to be, we have to put some really good minds behind coming up with, you know, really great technology. I'm going to pray. I'm concerned.
Now, do you think governments are going too far with wiretapping?
I think, you know, somewhat. You know, you always are a little bit nervous that the wrong person's going to hear, you know, your information and you know, get a hold of your information. So, you know, to be on the safe side, like I said before, I think it should be up to the individuals that have really proven themselves, that are really, really loyal and trustworthy and honest and good, like myself, that should be responsible for that, the wiretapping. And, yeah, you know, I know that I don't like to have my rights infringed, and I don't like to be violated. I don't want anybody that I don't trust and want to know my business knowing my business. You know, I don't think anybody would. It's kind of an invasion of privacy, if you ask me.
So in closing, is there any last-minute things you'd like to say?
Poop-poop-de-doo.
Come on, guys. So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out.
Hi.
This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, talking to you about the government-sanctioned wiretappings and the fact that Apple and Google are failing to comply with government warrants and are adding an extra level of encryption to their phones. Now, this will make it impossible for governments to get legal warrants and listen into criminals' phone calls. What do you think about that, SpongeBob?
I think it's good because of when Edward Snowden went over to Russia and found out that Verizon Wireless was using tapping in, the government using Verizon Wireless to tap into our phones to listen to our information about what we talk about against the government or any terrorist acts. So they would try to put warrants and attach to us. And I think it's kind of good that Apple and Google is doing that.
Okay. Now, should Congress force companies to allow government-sanctioned wiretapping? And what will this do to company profits if a foreign company makes a phone that will allow Should Congress force companies to allow government-sanctioned wiretapping? And what will this do to companies' profits if a foreign company can make a phone that world governments cannot tap into?
Well, what will happen is it will bring down our market for its phone conversations and stuff like that for phone companies, and then other companies will come up and merge and have their own company to make more money other than the other phone companies that's coming up.
Now, do you think government is going too far with their wiretapping?
Yeah, I think they are. It's invading privacy. They have a section in the code in the Constitution that allows not to do that.
So in closing, is there any last-minute things you'd like to say?
Yeah, make sure get one of them other phones that don't have no code tapped to it, and make sure that you have phones that service that's real good and no one can decode it. And get you what you call them, retro phones, the phones that you track phone. Get your track phone.
So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network saying, we're listening to you. It's Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network talking to you about the new government wiretapping, and what do you think about Apple and Google failing to comply with government warrants and are adding an extra layer of encryption to their phones? Now this will make it impossible for governments to get legally sanctioned wiretaps and be able to listen to criminals' phone calls. What do you think about that?
I think that puts all of us at risk. And I think that puts all of us in danger, and we need to be concerned about it.
Now, should Congress force companies to allow government-sanctioned wiretapping? And what will this do to companies' profits if a foreign company can make a phone that world governments cannot tap into?
I think that would cause a lot of corruption, and there's a lot going on in business now, and it would only escalate.
Now, is government going too far with their wiretapping?
I think that the individual freedoms need to be respected, but I do think that they need to protect us from crime and harm.
So in closing, this is the Predatory Lender Network saying, we are listening to you. Now this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network talking to fellow folks in the secret government about Apple and Google are now failing to comply with government-sanctioned wiretap. Now this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network talking to my fellow government activists here about Apple and Google. Now they're failing to comply with government warrants and are adding an extra layer of encryption to their phones. Now this will make it impossible for governments to get legally sanctioned wiretaps to listen in to criminals' phone calls. What do you think about this?
I think they should listen to criminals' phone calls. They should be allowed to, because there's terrorists and stuff. Like, we need, we could have prevent something really big like 9/11 from happening, if they were able to listen. So it's a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing if they're listening to, just anybody, regular people that are harmless, And some people like to do sneaky stuff like that, abuse the power sometimes,
Now, should Congress force companies to allow government-sanctioned wiretapping? And what will this do to companies' profits if a foreign company can make a phone that governments cannot tap into?
You're saying they're trying to make a phone that they can't tap into?
Well, they're talking about making Congress force companies to make phones that they can tap into. And what will this mean for if a foreign company can make a phone where they can't tap into?
Well, I don't know, because it's a good thing because there's bad people, and it's a bad thing, because there's good people. It's not everybody uses their phone for bad. But people shouldn't be, they should have some privacy, They should have the right to have privacy and not worry about people listening to what they're saying in private on their phones and stuff.
Now, is government going too far with their wiretapping?
Yeah, well, sometimes, yeah, I think they are, but, sometimes it's necessary for if somebody's for criminals, it's necessary, because if they're talking to the phone talking about they're gonna do something bad, then they should be able to listen in on it.
So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network saying, I'm listening to you.